right, folks, USC coming off 5-7, of course, but they're on the field for their second week of spring practice. Looking ahead to 2019, and for Clay Helton's sake, if nobody else is needing to win a few more games. We've got Scott Wolf on the line from inside USC. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. Would love to get some information on USC, of course, and see if there's potential for bounce back this year. I think the schedule sets up pretty rugged for the first 6 games or so. We can get into that a little bit later. But in regards to the quarterback situation, that is first and foremost on just about anybody's mind, especially outside the USC circle that don't know the ins and outs of the other positions. But JT Daniels, of course, the hotshot coming into the fold last year, performed well at times, not so well at other times. The offensive line could be blamed at times, and the scheme as well comes into question. But Jack Sears looks as though he's going to have a say in the quarterback battle as well.
You know, it's supposed to be a wide open competition because they're moving into an air raid offense, and the quarterback's going to be throwing the ball a lot. And they claim they've only got, 4 running plays in the whole offense. So a lot of the decisions are up to the quarterback. And Graham Harrell, the new offensive coordinator, says he's going to start from scratch in terms of evaluation. So JT Daniels, Jack Sears, and Matt Fink are all, trying to win the job. I don't think Fink has a chance. I think it's going to either be Daniels or Sears. But, I think most people assume Daniels will win because Clay Helton prefers Daniels. But Sears did have a good game last season when he played in his lone start. And truthfully, a lot of the fans like him. And more truthfully, although the players won't say it, maybe on a TV interview or in an interview, with a reporter on the record, behind the scenes, I think most of the team prefers Sears to be the quarterback.
And as you mentioned, Sears had the one shot last season against Arizona State, and despite a narrow loss, performed pretty admirably. 20 of 28, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. In his one opportunity, JT Daniels a bit up and down, 14 touchdowns and 10 picks. You mentioned the offense and the new concept with Graham Harrell coming in, a Texas Tech quarterback in the mold of the Mike Leach offense and throwing the ball all over the place. As you mentioned, the air raid, which is kind of ironic because Cliff Kingsbury was hired Texas Tech quarterback and head coach. So staying in that same line of philosophy, it sounds exciting. Let's throw it 60 times. And let's get our playmakers out in space and get the ball out of the hands of the quarterback and be wide open and exciting and put 45 points on the board every week. But I don't necessarily know if that's the formula for championships when you look at the elite teams across the country that appear to be a little bit more balanced. So in terms of the football-minded people, what are they saying about this new approach?
Well, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. One is, USC, despite how bad they were, they aspire to go to the college football playoff, and they aspire to win national championships. And the air raid, as far as I know, has never won a national championship. So, that would be one way of looking at it. The other way, according to, Graham Harrell, they are going to try to be balanced, even though the air raid does throw a lot. He's saying they're going to run the ball a lot too. So we'll have to see how that works. I know when he was at North Texas, they had some good running backs and they had good stats. So he does like to run the ball more than, say, Mike Leach, it looks like. But, this is one of the questions I think a lot of the fans are curious about, to see how it actually transpires once they get into a game.
You brought up the name Mike Leach, and if you look to the north, obviously they have proven to be a emerging contender, although they haven't sealed the deal and gotten the job done on the last game against Washington, but been very successful with 10 wins, actually 11-2, I believe, after the bowl win this past season. And Mike Leach, yeah, he wants to throw it 70 to 75% of the time and does. I think the big separation there is when he arrived in his first season or two when they were not successful and he was still building the program, the running game was non-existent. It was deplorable. Now when they do run it, they are successful. They still, again, only run it about 30% of the time, but they're at least successful. It's at least a threat. They at least have the scheme and the players in place to have to keep the defense honest. And I would think at USC, the running game is going to be always need to be a bigger factor. You can draw better talent at that position than a Washington State, and so you would want to at least give running back or recruits something to go on that they're not going to be forgotten in their aspirations to be big time players at that level and move on to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean they've got Stephen Carr, Vavai Malapai, Marquise Stepp, so they have some good running backs. And Clay Helton's always claimed he wants to run the ball and have a balanced offense, and he's talked about that in spring too. How even though they're going to this air raid, he does want to run the ball. But it's interesting because the first three practices they said they put the whole offense in, so it's supposed to be a very simple offense, and they only have 4 running plays according to Graham Burrell. So I think a lot of it is the quarterback reading the defense and making quick decisions and throwing the ball as quickly as possible, not dropping back and taking a lot of time to throw passes. So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds when they get into real games with real pass rushers, because a lot of times it looks great in 7-on-7 and it looks great in practice when the quarterback can't get hit. But as we saw last year, when the other team can actually rush the quarterback, sometimes you can have problems.